Black America is approaching $20 trillion in buying power. But very few people are talking about where that money is actually going. Most conversations you hear are about spending. The real story, the one that matters, is about ownership. If you think black wealth is just being spent on luxury items, entertainment, or status symbols, you're already behind. The wealthiest black individuals in the world don't build wealth through consumption. They build wealth through control. In this video, we're breaking down where black multimillionaires are investing right now and how they're repositioning themselves for the next 10 to 30 years. This isn't speculation. This is how capital actually moves. Black buying power has grown dramatically over the past 2 decades. In the early 2000s, it was just over $1 trillion. Today, projections place black economic influence near $20 trillion over the coming decades. But here's the critical point. Income does not create generational wealth. Ownership does. Most public discussions get stuck on how black consumers spend money. But wealth is built by deciding where that money is invested and who controls the assets. The wealthiest black investors aren't chasing visibility or popularity. They are acquiring systems that produce long-term cash flow and, most importantly, control. Before we look at where the wealth is going, it's just as important to understand where it's leaving. High net worth investors are actively reducing their exposure to traditional retail businesses. They're stepping away from low-margin restaurants and companies that are heavy on labor. They're avoiding brands that don't own their intellectual property or scalable systems. Wealth doesn't follow trends or nostalgia. It follows infrastructure and control. The key question wealthy investors ask is not, what's popular right now? The real question is, what controls distribution and cash flow? Across private equity firms, family offices, and holding companies, several clear patterns are emerging. First, there's a huge focus on intellectual property rather than just labor. Second, investors are prioritizing real assets that produce consistent, predictable cash flow. Third, they're taking minority ownership stakes that provide all the upside without the headache of daily management. Fourth, they're investing heavily in media platforms and distribution channels. And finally, they are choosing infrastructure over celebrity. Fame attracts attention, but ownership builds permanence. Let's look at some real-world examples. Rihanna isn't wealthy just because she's a world-famous musician. She is wealthy because she owns equity. She built companies where she retained ownership instead of just licensing her name out for a check. She partnered strategically and structured her businesses for long-term valuation, not a quick payday. Fenty wasn't just another fashion brand. It was a brilliantly designed equity and distribution play. That success was planned, not accidental. Then there's Tyler Perry. He doesn't own studios for recognition or to see his name in lights. He owns them for control. He owns the land, the production infrastructure, and the intellectual property. This powerful combination allows him to control his content, his distribution, and his long-term revenue streams. His entire strategy is focused on ownership, not just exposure. And that is why his wealth compounds and grows year after year. And we have to talk about Magic Johnson. He is one of the most disciplined and brilliant investors in modern business. His investments almost always focus on predictable cash flow assets. What does that mean? Things like urban infrastructure, proven franchises, sports-related real estate, and essential healthcare facilities. His strategy deliberately avoids speculation and prioritizes stability. This steady, calculated approach allows his wealth to grow consistently without taking on unnecessary risk. So, where is the next wave of black wealth concentrating? We see it moving into 5 key areas. First, private equity and structured ownership stakes are growing rapidly. This is about buying into businesses, not just starting them from scratch. Second, institutional real estate is a major target. We're not talking about flipping houses. Think bigger. Medical offices, logistics centers for e-commerce, and data facilities that power our digital world. Third, media platforms and intellectual property libraries are becoming incredibly valuable. Owning the content and the way it reaches people is a massive wealth driver. Fourth, energy, utilities, and essential infrastructure continue to attract long-term capital. These are the systems everyone needs, and they generate consistent returns. And finally, technology is being used as leverage to automate systems and increase efficiency, rather than just chasing the latest tech hype. All of these assets prioritize three things: control, scale, and durability. Now, you might be thinking, this is great, but I don't have millions of dollars. But you don't need millions to adopt the mindset of a multimillionaire. You need to prioritize ownership over just earning a high income. You need to start thinking long-term instead of chasing short-term excitement. And you need to focus on financial education rather than just entertainment. The next great expansion of black wealth will not be loud or flashy. It will be structured, intentional, and disciplined. And those who understand this early will not need to ask for permission later. This channel exists to explain how money actually moves, to pull back the curtain on wealth creation. If this video changed how you think about wealth, subscribe to the channel. The next $1 trillion is already on the move. The only question is whether you will recognize it in time.